I awakened, disoriented in an unfamiliar bed, realizing with horror I had been admitted to Pinecrest Nursing Home against my will. My son Jeffrey and daughter-in-law Amanda claimed I was no longer capable of living independently after my minor fall last month. They sold my beloved home of 40 years and seized control of my finances through a questionable power of attorney. As I processed this betrayal, a nurse delivered my weekly lottery ticket that my friend Martha secretly purchased for me. Little did anyone know how dramatically life was about to change. Just 6 weeks ago, I was living contentedly in my colonial home on Maple Street in Springfield. The same home where my late husband Frank and I had raised Jeffrey, where we'd hosted 40 Thanksgiving dinners, and where Frank had taken his last breath 5 years ago. At 68, I was still active and independent. My retirement from teaching 3rd grade at Washington Elementary gave me time to tend my garden, volunteer at the library twice weekly, and meet my best friend Martha for coffee every Wednesday morning at Joe's Diner. Martha and I started our lottery tradition 30 years ago when we were both young teachers with growing families and tight budgets. Every Friday, we would each put in $1, and Martha would buy our ticket. Even when I insisted the odds were astronomical, she would just laugh and say, "Lena, we are not buying a winning ticket, we are buying hope for $1. Pretty good bargain." So we continued, through marriages, children, grandchildren, retirements, and Frank's passing. My life was comfortable. My house was paid off. I had a modest teacher's pension plus Social Security, and Frank had been prudent with our investments. I was by no means wealthy, but I was secure. I could afford to help my granddaughter Taylor with community college tuition and take my grandson Lucas to baseball games. The fall happened on an ordinary Tuesday. I was washing the breakfast dishes when the phone rang. I hurried to answer it, not noticing the small puddle of water on the linoleum. My feet went out from under me, and I landed hard on my hip. The pain was immediate and intense. I managed to reach my cell phone and call 911. The paramedics were kind and efficient, getting me to Springfield Memorial within 20 minutes. X-rays showed no fracture, just a bad bruise. The doctor recommended rest, ice, and pain medication. I was supposed to be discharged that afternoon, but Jeffrey insisted they keep me overnight for observation. That should have been my first warning. The second warning came when Jeffrey and Amanda visited me in the hospital. Rather than focusing on my recovery, they kept steering the conversation toward my living arrangements. "Mom, this fall is a wake-up call," Jeffrey said, his voice carrying that patronizing tone I had come to recognize. "You cannot live alone anymore." "It was a simple accident," I protested. "It could have happened to anyone of any age." Amanda shook her head, her blonde hair swinging with rehearsed concern. "But Lena, you have been becoming more forgetful lately. Remember when you missed your dental appointment last month?" I had missed that appointment because Jeffrey had given me the wrong date when he called to remind me. But whenever I tried to explain these things, they exchanged those looks, the ones that silently communicated, "See how confused she is?" The third warning was the specialist Jeffrey insisted I see. Dr. Harold Manning had an office filled with expensive furniture and few personal touches. He asked me basic orientation questions while Jeffrey and Amanda sat nearby, nodding and occasionally interrupting to clarify my answers. "Mom gets dates mixed up," Jeffrey told the doctor when I correctly stated it was April 19th, 2023. "She forgot where she parked at the grocery store last week," Amanda added when I had no trouble drawing a clock showing 10:15. After 20 minutes of this, Dr. Manning gave me a small cup with 2 pills. "Just something to help you relax for the next tests," he explained. I remember taking those pills. I remember feeling drowsy almost immediately, and then my memory becomes fragmented. I have vague recollections of signing documents that Jeffrey placed in front of me, of being helped into a wheelchair, of Amanda telling someone, "She gets confused easily, so we handle all her decisions now." When I fully regained awareness, I was in a bed at Pinecrest Nursing Home with a plastic bracelet around my wrist and a strange woman named Dorothy in the other bed across the room. The full horror of my situation became clear over the next 24 hours. Jeffrey had used that appointment to obtain an emergency power of attorney, claiming I was experiencing cognitive decline. He had already sold my house in a quick sale to cash buyers. Most of my belongings had been distributed or donated, with only enough clothes and personal items to fill half a closet brought to Pinecrest. My cell phone was gone, replaced with a simple flip phone that could only call pre-approved numbers. My checkbook, credit cards, and financial documents were all in Jeffrey's possession. Even my driver's license had somehow disappeared. But the most devastating discovery came when Martha finally managed to visit me 3 days after my admission. She brought a small suitcase with some of my favorite clothes she had rescued from the donation pile Jeffrey had left on her porch. "Lena, I tried to stop them," she said, her eyes filling with tears. "I told Jeffrey you were perfectly fine, but he showed me papers signed by Dr. Manning diagnosing you with moderate dementia and claiming you were at high risk for self-neglect." "That is impossible," I whispered. "Dr. Manning barely spoke to me." Martha squeezed my hand. "I know, so I made some calls. Dr. Manning is not even a geriatric specialist. He is a general practitioner who works primarily with a company that manages guardianship cases and nursing home placements. And he has been investigated twice for questionable competency evaluations." The realization hit me like a physical blow. The fall had given Jeffrey the opportunity he had been waiting for. Now I understood the increasing frequency of his questions about my finances over the past year. The casual mentions of how much my house would sell for in the current market. His sudden interest in becoming a co-signatory on my accounts to help manage my bills. They had been planning this, waiting for the right moment. And now they had everything they wanted. My house, my savings, and me safely tucked away where I could not interfere. Adjusting to life at Pinecrest was one of the hardest things I have ever done. My daily routine of 40 years vanished overnight, replaced by an institutional schedule I had no part in creating. Breakfast at 7:30, medications at 8, physical therapy at 9 for those who needed it, group activities at 10, lunch at noon, rest period until 2, more activities, dinner at 5, television in the common room, then lights out at 9:30 like we were children at summer camp. The indignities were endless. Having to ask permission to go outside to the small courtyard, being talked to in a sing-song voice by staff young enough to be my grandchildren, having my shower schedule determined by someone else, eating bland food at assigned seating with people I had nothing in common with. The grief was overwhelming at times. I would wake up reaching for my bedside lamp, only to remember it was gone, sold, or given away. I would plan my day around watering my hydrangeas, only to remember they were no longer mine to care for. I wondered if the new owners of my home would appreciate the perennial garden Frank and I had spent decades perfecting. My roommate Dorothy proved to be an unexpected blessing. At 79, she had survived 2 husbands, a successful career as an attorney, and a bout with breast cancer. She had chosen to move to Pinecrest after breaking her hip the previous year, but was now regretting the decision. "I gave up too easily," she confessed one night after lights out, when we often had our most honest conversations. "My daughter meant well, but I should have tried harder to maintain my independence." Dorothy became my ally, sharing her observations about the staff and the unwritten rules of the facility. "Nurse Tara actually cares, but she is overworked. The aides in the morning shift will help you if you are nice to them, but never ask Thomas for anything, he will forget. And stay on Warren Peters' good side. As administrator, he can make your life pleasant or miserable." Warren Peters ran Pinecrest like a small fiefdom. In his mid-50s, with prematurely gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses, he projected an image of professional compassion. But I quickly noticed how he saved his warmth for residents with the most expensive rooms or influential families. My attempts to contact outside help were consistently thwarted. My calls to other friends were mysteriously disconnected. Letters I tried to send disappeared before making it to the mail. I strongly suspected Jeffrey had instructed the staff to monitor my communications. When I tried to speak to a social worker about my situation, she nodded sympathetically, but ultimately deferred to the paperwork Jeffrey had provided. Martha remained my connection to the outside world, visiting twice weekly, despite the facility being a 30-minute drive from her home. On her third visit, she smuggled in our weekly lottery ticket. "I almost forgot our Friday tradition," she said, slipping me the ticket while hugging me goodbye. I tucked the ticket into my nightgown pocket, not giving it much thought. Our tickets never won more than $20 in all our years of playing, and even that was rare. That night, alone in the bathroom where I had some privacy, I unfolded the ticket and compared it to the winning numbers Martha had written on the slip of paper tucked with it. The first number matched, then the second. By the third matching number, my hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on the closed toilet lid. Fourth number, fifth number, sixth number, all matched. The Powerball, too. I pressed my hand against my mouth to stifle the scream building in my throat. $74 million. I had won $74 million. My first instinct was to call Martha immediately, but a sudden clarity stopped me. If Jeffrey found out about the win, he would claim the money as my guardian. I needed to be strategic. For the first time since arriving at Pinecrest, I felt a glimmer of hope, not just for escape, but for justice. I waited until Dorothy returned from her evening television routine. With the door closed and water running in the sink to mask our conversation, I showed her the ticket. Her eyes widened. "Good Lord, Lena, this changes everything. Only if I can claim it, without Jeffrey finding out," I whispered. Dorothy thought for a moment. "You need to create a trust before claiming the prize. And you need a lawyer who specializes in estate planning and elder law." Over the next 3 days, Dorothy and I formulated a plan. Martha would be our outside contact, using her cell phone to make the calls we could not make from Pinecrest. Dorothy provided the names of 3 attorneys she trusted from her years of practice. Just as we were finalizing our strategy, I overheard a conversation that added urgency to our plans. Warren Peters was speaking to another staff member outside my door. "The Johnson family is moving Lena to Sunny Pines next month," he said. "Her son found a semi-private room that costs half what she is paying here." Sunny Pines was the facility on the other side of town, known for its minimal staffing and frequent health violations. Jeffrey was not only controlling my money, he was cutting costs at the expense of my care and comfort. That night, I slept fitfully, torn between rage at my son's betrayal and determination to reclaim my life. The lottery ticket, now hidden in a small slit I had cut in my mattress, represented more than money. It was my chance at freedom and dignity. Martha arrived early the next morning, having received my urgent message through Dorothy's physical therapist. I had never been so grateful for my friend's loyalty. "I need you to contact Sandra Walker," I told her, handing over the slip of paper Dorothy had prepared with the attorney's information. "Tell her it is about creating a trust immediately, before claiming a lottery prize. Tell her it involves elder abuse and financial exploitation." Martha nodded, her expression grave. "I will call from the car right now." "What about the ticket?" I shook my head. "I cannot risk giving it to you. If Jeffrey or Amanda saw you with it, or if it got lost, it stays with me." 3 nerve-wracking days passed before Martha returned with news. Sandra Walker had agreed to help, and had arranged for a lottery commission representative to meet us discreetly at Pinecrest, under the guise of a social services consultation. When the day arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. What if Jeffrey made a surprise visit? What if Warren Peters became suspicious? Dorothy agreed to create a distraction if needed, complaining of chest pains to draw staff attention away from our meeting. Sandra Walker arrived first, a competent-looking woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense attitude that immediately put me at ease. The lottery representative, a young man named Brian Foster, came 15 minutes later. In my small shared room, with Dorothy standing watch by the door, we created what Sandra called an irrevocable blind trust, naming me as the primary beneficiary but with specific provisions to protect the assets from Jeffrey's control. Martha would serve as the initial trustee until my legal competency could be restored. "The trust will claim the prize," Sandra explained. "We will call it the Second Chance Trust. Your name will not appear in any public records related to the win." Brian verified my ticket and completed the preliminary claim forms. "We will need you to sign the final documents at the commission office," he explained. "Miss Walker and I have arranged a medical transport for you next Tuesday. It will appear as a routine doctor appointment in the facility records." As they prepared to leave, I felt overwhelming gratitude. "Thank you for believing me," I said. Sandra's expression softened slightly. "Mrs. Patterson, what has been done to you is not just unethical, it is likely criminal. Financial exploitation of seniors is my specialty, and I have seen this pattern before. Your son's actions will not go unchallenged." The following Tuesday unfolded according to plan. The medical transport arrived, with Martha accompanying me as my designated caregiver. At the Lottery Commission office, I signed the final claim documents with shaking hands. The Second Chance Trust was now officially the winner of $74 million. The lump sum payout after taxes would be approximately $32 million. Sandra had already arranged for the funds to be transferred to secure accounts, with limited immediate access to prevent raising red flags with Jeffrey. I returned to Pinecrest feeling like I was living in two different realities. In one, I was a wealthy woman with the means to reclaim my independence. In the other, I was still a prisoner in a system that had stripped me of my basic rights. The public announcement of the winning ticket came the next day. Local news reported that the $74 million Powerball prize had been claimed by the Second Chance Trust, represented by attorney Sandra Walker. No individuals were named. Dorothy watched the news with me in the common room, squeezing my hand discreetly when the announcement came. "Phase 1 complete," she whispered. The facility was abuzz with speculation about the mysterious winner. Several residents claimed to know someone who had purchased the ticket. The staff joined in the gossip, with Nurse Tara commenting that she hoped it was someone who deserved a break. Jeffrey and Amanda arrived for their weekly visit 2 days after the announcement. I had been dreading seeing them, worried my face would somehow reveal my secret. But their visit provided an unexpected revelation. "Did you hear about the lottery winner, Mom?" Jeffrey asked as he arranged the drugstore flowers he had brought. $74 million to some anonymous trust. Everyone at work is talking about it. "How interesting," I replied neutrally. "Amanda and I have been trying to figure out who it could be," he continued. "The ticket was purchased at Wilson's convenience store. Is that not where Martha buys your tickets?" My heart nearly stopped. I would not know. Martha handles that. Amanda was watching me closely. "Jeffrey mentioned you two have played the same numbers for years. What were they again?" Their sudden interest in my lottery habits sent a chill through me. "Oh, I can never remember. Martha keeps track of all that." They exchanged a look I could not interpret. Jeffrey changed the subject abruptly, telling me about Lucas's baseball game and Taylor's summer job plans. But I noticed he kept glancing around my room, his eyes lingering on my dresser drawers and bedside table. After they left, Dorothy confirmed my suspicions. "Your son went through your nightstand when you went to the bathroom," she said quietly. "I pretended to be asleep, but I saw him searching through your things." 3 days later, Jeffrey returned alone, unannounced. I was in the middle of a physical therapy session when he arrived, and by the time I returned to my room, I could tell someone had disturbed my belongings. The corner of the mattress where I had hidden the ticket initially was slightly askew. Dorothy confirmed my fears. "He spent 20 minutes in here. He looked everywhere, even checked under your mattress. The staff let him because he is your guardian." That night, I carefully checked my new hiding place inside the hollowed-out spine of a hardcover Bible Martha had brought me. The winning ticket was still there, but I knew I needed to move quickly. Jeffrey was suspicious, and it was only a matter of time before he connected the dots. My concerns proved well-founded when Jeffrey and an excited Amanda arrived the next morning, with Warren Peters in tow. "Mom, why did you not tell us?" Jeffrey demanded, his voice louder than appropriate for the setting. "Tell you what, dear?" I asked, though my racing heart told me he had discovered my secret. He thrust a newspaper toward me. On the front page was the lottery announcement, along with a statement from the convenience store owner confirming the winning ticket had been purchased as part of a regular Friday transaction by an older woman who buys the same numbers every week. Next to the article, Jeffrey had placed our most recent lottery ticket from Martha's visit yesterday. The numbers were clearly visible, the same numbers we had played for decades. "You won the lottery," he stated flatly, "and you have been hiding it from your family." The next few hours were chaos. Jeffrey immediately called a press conference without my permission, announcing to the media that his elderly mother, Lena Patterson, was the true winner of the $74 million Powerball jackpot. He positioned himself as the concerned son, managing affairs for his cognitively impaired mother. Television crews gathered outside Pinecrest, trying to get footage or comments. Warren Peters, seeing an opportunity for publicity, welcomed selected reporters into the facility, speaking about how Pinecrest had always provided excellent care for Mrs. Patterson and would continue to do so in her fortunate new circumstances. My room, previously ignored by most staff, suddenly received hourly check-ins. Aides, who had barely spoken to me before, stopped by to chat. Warren Peters himself brought me a flower arrangement and assured me that he would personally oversee my care moving forward. The most distressing change was in my relationship with the other residents. People who had been friendly now regarded me with a mixture of envy and resentment. Several who had previously ignored me now claimed we had always been close. Dorothy remained my only genuine ally within the facility walls. "You have become an asset instead of an expense," she observed bitterly. "Watch how they try to control you now." Family members I had not seen in years suddenly appeared. My nephew Scott, who had not visited once in the 5 years since Frank's funeral, arrived with his wife and 3 children, expressing how much they had always treasured our relationship. Jeffrey's cousins from his father's side, the wealthy branch of the family that had always looked down on my teaching career, now called regularly to check on my well-being. Through it all, Jeffrey maintained his role as the dutiful son protecting his vulnerable mother. In private, however, his true intentions became clear. "We need to dissolve this trust immediately," he insisted, during a tense meeting in my room, with Amanda and Warren Peters present. "As your legal guardian, I should be managing these funds." "I am perfectly capable of making my own decisions," I replied firmly. "And I have chosen to keep the money in the trust." Jeffrey laughed dismissively. "Mom, you have moderate dementia. It is documented by Dr. Manning. You cannot make financial decisions." "I want a new evaluation," I demanded, "by an independent doctor." "That is not necessary," Amanda interjected smoothly. "We only want what is best for you, Lena." Later that day, I received a visit from Sandra Walker. Jeffrey had attempted to block her from seeing me, but she had arrived with court documentation establishing her right to consult with me privately. "Your son has filed emergency motions to maintain control of all your assets, including the lottery winnings," she informed me. "He is claiming the trust was established fraudulently because you lack capacity to create such an instrument." "What can we do?" I asked, trying to keep the desperation from my voice. "We fight," Sandra said simply. "I have arranged for a respected geriatric psychiatrist, Dr. Elaine Summers, to evaluate you tomorrow. I have also begun investigating your son's management of your existing assets." Dr. Summers arrived the next morning, a serious woman with kind eyes and a thorough approach. For nearly 2 hours, she assessed my cognitive function, memory, reasoning ability, and emotional state. Unlike Dr. Manning, she asked open-ended questions and listened carefully to my responses without interruption or judgment. "Mrs. Patterson," she said as our session concluded, "based on my evaluation, you show no signs of dementia or cognitive impairment that would prevent you from making your own financial or personal decisions. You are experiencing situational depression and anxiety, which is entirely appropriate given your circumstances. I will be including these findings in my formal report to the court." Her words brought tears of relief to my eyes. Finally, a medical professional was seeing me clearly. The relief was short-lived. That afternoon, Jeffrey arrived in a rage, having been informed of Dr. Summers' visit. "You have no right to seek outside medical opinions," he shouted. "I am your guardian." "Lower your voice," Dorothy interrupted from her bed. "This is our room, not your private office." Jeffrey turned on her. "Stay out of this. This is a family matter." "If you cannot speak respectfully, you need to leave," I told him, finding courage in Dorothy's support. "This is not over," he warned as he stormed out. "You have no idea what you are up against." His threat proved accurate. The next day, Warren Peters informed me that my grandchildren would no longer be permitted to visit without Jeffrey or Amanda present, claiming it was for my own protection during this stressful time. When I protested, he responded with practiced sympathy. "Mrs. Patterson, your son is concerned that you might make promises to family members or try to give away money while your case is under legal review. As the facility administrator, I must respect his wishes as your legal guardian." That evening, Martha visited with troubling news. "Amanda's brother Craig works for the State Lottery Commission," she revealed. "He must have recognized our numbers when the winning ticket was processed and tipped them off." "Is that legal?" I asked. "Absolutely not," Martha confirmed. "It is a serious breach of confidentiality. Sandra is looking into it, but it explains how Jeffrey knew so quickly." The walls were closing in around me. Jeffrey controlled my finances, my housing, my medical care, and even my access to loved ones. The lottery win that should have liberated me had only intensified his determination to maintain control. As I lay awake that night, listening to Dorothy's soft snoring, I wondered if I had made a terrible mistake in claiming the ticket. Perhaps I should have destroyed it rather than invite this new level of exploitation. The money meant nothing if it could not buy back my freedom and dignity. But then I remembered Frank's favorite saying whenever we faced a challenge. "Lena, my love, the size of the problem just determines the size of the victory when you overcome it." With that thought providing comfort, I finally drifted off to sleep, resolving to fight with everything I had. The emergency court hearing regarding my competency and the control of my assets was scheduled for the following week. Sandra Walker worked tirelessly preparing our case, gathering medical records, financial documents, and witness statements. "The key is demonstrating that the original power of attorney was obtained through fraud or misrepresentation," she explained during our preparation sessions. "Dr. Summers' evaluation will be crucial, but we also need to show a pattern of self-serving behavior by Jeffrey." The day before the hearing, Taylor, my 18-year-old granddaughter, managed to visit me by claiming she was a volunteer from the local high school. The sight of her familiar face brought me such joy, but her expression was troubled. "Grandma, something weird is happening at home," she whispered, checking to ensure no staff were nearby. "Dad and Mom are acting strange, always having private conversations that stop when I come into the room. Last night they were arguing about money, and I heard Mom say they needed to make sure you stayed under their guardianship. Have they spent money recently?" I asked. "New purchases?" Taylor nodded. "Dad bought a new car yesterday, and Mom keeps talking about a vacation house they are going to buy in Florida." My heart sank. They were already spending my lottery winnings, confident in their ability to maintain control. "Taylor, I need you to be careful," I cautioned. "I do not want you caught in the middle of this." "I am already in the middle," she replied with a maturity beyond her years. "What they are doing to you is wrong." After she left, Dorothy shared another concerning observation. "Warren Peters has been meeting privately with your son several times this week. I overheard them discussing a substantial donation to Pinecrest's new memory care wing." The implications were clear. The nursing home administration had a financial incentive to support Jeffrey's narrative about my mental decline. The system that should have protected me was being corrupted by the promise of money. The morning of the hearing arrived with a flurry of activity. Sandra arrived early to escort me to the courthouse, having obtained a temporary order allowing her to transport me. I dressed in clothes Martha had brought me, a simple navy blue dress and low heels that made me feel more like myself than I had in weeks. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with polished wood benches and fluorescent lighting that cast everyone in an unflattering glow. Jeffrey and Amanda sat at one table with their attorney, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. Sandra and I took our places at the opposing table. Judge Gloria Ramirez, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, called the hearing to order. Jeffrey's attorney, Robert Dawson, presented their case first, painting a picture of a devoted son, concerned only with his elderly mother's welfare. Mrs. Patterson experienced a fall in April that revealed underlying cognitive issues, he claimed. Dr. Harold Manning diagnosed her with moderate dementia, necessitating her placement in skilled nursing care. Her son Jeffrey, out of love and concern, stepped in to protect her interests. He presented affidavits from 2 Pinecrest staff members claiming I was often confused, forgot meals, and had trouble recognizing people. With a sinking heart, I recognized the names as staff members who rarely interacted with me but were known to be close to Warren Peters. Most devastating was the testimony from Jeffrey himself. He described fabricated incidents of me leaving burners on, getting lost while driving, and failing to recognize Taylor during a visit. Each lie built upon the previous one, creating a fictional version of me that bore no resemblance to reality. And now, Jeffrey concluded, his voice thick with manufactured emotion, my mother has come into a significant sum of money. I am terrified that in her condition, she will be taken advantage of by opportunists and so-called friends who have suddenly appeared in her life. He looked directly at me as he said this, his expression a perfect mask of concern. In that moment, I hardly recognized the boy I had raised, the child I had loved unconditionally through every stage of his life. Sandra presented our case methodically, introducing Dr. Summers' comprehensive evaluation showing no cognitive impairment. She called Nurse Tara, who testified that she had never observed any confusion or memory issues during my time at Pinecrest. Mrs. Patterson is one of our most alert and engaged residents, Tara stated firmly, despite the glares from Warren Peters, who sat in the gallery. Martha testified about our 30-year friendship, describing my consistent mental clarity and independence before and after my fall. She detailed Jeffrey and Amanda's increasing interest in my finances over the past year, long before any health concerns arose. The most powerful testimony came from an unexpected source. Sandra called Douglas Chen, the bank manager at Springfield First National, where I had done my banking for decades. In the 3 months before Mrs. Patterson's nursing home admission, her son Jeffrey attempted to add himself to her accounts 4 times, Mr. Chen testified. Mrs. Patterson declined each time. A week after her admission to Pinecrest, he presented a power of attorney and withdrew $50,000 from her savings, transferring it to a separate account in his name only. Judge Ramirez leaned forward. Was there any reason given for this transfer? He claimed it was for her care expenses, Mr. Chen replied. However, Pinecrest was being paid directly from Mrs. Patterson's pension and Social Security. When I questioned this, Mr. Fended, Patterson became agitated and threatened to move all his mother's accounts to another bank. Despite the strength of our evidence, Judge Ramirez's ruling was cautious. Given the conflicting medical opinions, I am ordering an independent evaluation by a court-appointed specialist. Until that assessment is complete, the current guardianship will remain in place, but with additional oversight. No withdrawals from any accounts, including the lottery trust, may be made without court approval. We will reconvene in 30 days. It was not the victory I had hoped for, but it was not a complete defeat. Jeffrey would maintain control temporarily, but under scrutiny. As we left the courthouse, his cold smile told me he considered the ruling a win. Back at Pinecrest, I fell into a deep depression. For 30 days, I would remain under Jeffrey's control, trapped in a facility I did not need, separated from friends and family who truly cared about me. Martha visited the next day, bringing comfort and disturbing news. I hired a private investigator like Sandra suggested, she said quietly. He found evidence that Jeffrey has serious gambling debts. He owes over $100,000 to various creditors, including some very unpleasant characters. And there is more. The investigator discovered Jeffrey has already spent approximately $150,000 of the lottery money that was released for legal fees. How is that possible? I gasped. The court restricted withdrawals. The initial transfer happened before the restrictions, Martha explained. He must have acted immediately after learning about the win. As the reality of Jeffrey's financial desperation became clear, so did the extent of his betrayal. This was not just about control or even greed. My son was using me to solve his own financial crisis. That evening, Warren Peters visited my room with an unexpected proposition. Mrs. Patterson, I understand your frustration with your current situation, he began smoothly. Perhaps we could reach an arrangement that would benefit everyone. What kind of arrangement? I asked warily. Pinecrest is planning a new state-of-the-art memory care facility. A generous donation of, say, $5 million would secure you the finest private suite, complete independence within the facility, and my personal guarantee that your son's visitation would be limited to your preference. I stared at him, barely able to comprehend the brazen request. You are asking me to pay you $5 million to protect me from my own son, in a facility I do not need or want to be in? He had the grace to look momentarily uncomfortable. I am offering a solution that respects the legal realities while giving you what you want. Independence. Mr. Peters, what I want is justice, and my freedom. Neither is for sale. After he left, I sank onto my bed, overwhelmed by the corrupting influence of the lottery win. It had transformed me from a person into a prize to be controlled. For the first time, I seriously considered giving up the fight, accepting my situation, and finding what small pleasures I could within my confined life. Dorothy noticed my despair. Lena, do not you dare surrender now, she urged. That is exactly what they want. I am so tired, I admitted. Fighting my own son, the medical establishment, this facility. It feels impossible. Nothing worth fighting for is easy, she reminded me, echoing Frank's philosophy so closely it brought tears to my eyes. That night, as I contemplated the long battle ahead, there was a soft knock at our door well after visiting hours. Taylor slipped in, clearly having sneaked past the night staff. Grandma, she whispered urgently, I have something you need to hear. She placed her phone on the bed between us and played a recording. I heard Jeffrey and Amanda's voices clearly. Once the court-appointed doctor sees her, it will all be settled, Jeffrey was saying. I have already spoken with Dr. Wells. He understands the situation. What if he finds her competent? Amanda asked. Jeffrey laughed. He will not. He has worked with our attorney on dozens of these cases. The point is to find justification for permanent guardianship. Once that happens, we can move her to Sunny Pines, free up some cash, and still maintain control of the lottery money. And if she fights it? Amanda pressed. What can she do? Jeffrey responded coldly. She is an old woman in a nursing home. No one listens to people like her. As the recording ended, Taylor's eyes met mine, filled with tears and determination. I will not let them do this to you, Grandma. Tell me how I can help. In that moment, my despair transformed into resolve. Jeffrey had underestimated me my entire life. It was time to show him, and everyone else, exactly what an old woman in a nursing home could do. The recording Taylor provided became the cornerstone of our new strategy. Sandra Walker was ecstatic when I called her the next morning to tell her about this explosive evidence. This changes everything, she declared. It proves intent to defraud and suggests potential witness tampering with the court-appointed evaluator. I am filing an emergency motion today. Dorothy connected me with her former law partner, Gerald Freeman, who specialized in elder law and had successfully prosecuted several high-profile financial exploitation cases. With Sandra's approval, Gerald joined our legal team, bringing decades of experience and a reputation that made court clerks and judges take immediate notice. Martha activated her network of retired teachers, many of whom had remained in Springfield and knew our family. They began gathering statements about my mental clarity, independence, and Jeffrey's increasingly controlling behavior over the past year. Most importantly, Nurse Tara made the brave decision to come forward with everything she had witnessed. Despite pressure from Warren Peters to support the facility's position, she documented how I had never shown any signs of confusion or impairment during my stay. She also provided records showing that Jeffrey had instructed staff to limit my phone access and monitor my mail, restrictions normally reserved for residents with severe cognitive issues or those at risk of being financially exploited by outside parties. I became a nurse to help people, she told me. What they are doing to you is wrong, and I cannot be part of it anymore. Other Pinecrest residents, emboldened by Tara's example, began sharing their own observations. 4 residents signed affidavits, stating they had witnessed Jeffrey searching my room during visits. 2 others reported overhearing him instructing staff to note any behavior that could be interpreted as confusion, no matter how minor. Our most stunning breakthrough came when Sandra's investigator discovered that Dr. Harold Manning, who had provided the initial dementia diagnosis, had never actually completed a proper evaluation. The investigator found a pattern. Dr. Manning had signed off on dozens of questionable competency evaluations for the same attorney Jeffrey had initially consulted, Robert Dawson. In several cases, the language in the evaluations was nearly identical, suggesting they were template documents rather than individualized assessments. Most damning of all, bank records revealed that Jeffrey had paid Dr. Manning $7,000 in cash 3 days before my evaluation, a payment never disclosed to the court. Armed with this mounting evidence, Sandra filed motions for an emergency hearing to remove Jeffrey as guardian and for a temporary restraining order preventing him from accessing any of my assets. Judge Ramirez, alarmed by the evidence of potential fraud and witness tampering, scheduled the hearing for the following week. The day before the hearing, Warren Peters called me to his office. His usual smooth confidence was replaced with nervous energy. "Mrs. Patterson, I think there has been a misunderstanding between us," he began, not quite meeting my eyes. "Pinecrest has always had your best interests at heart. If there have been any restrictions that made you uncomfortable, I assure you they were implemented at your son's insistence, not our preference. Are you concerned about the testimony your staff will be giving tomorrow, Mr. Peters?" I asked directly. He shifted in his chair. "I simply want to ensure that your experience here is portrayed accurately. We provide excellent care to all our residents." "Then you have nothing to worry about, do you?" As I left his office, I felt a surge of satisfaction. The tables had turned. Those who had dismissed and controlled me were now concerned about my influence. Jeffrey made one last desperate attempt to maintain control, arriving at Pinecrest that evening with Amanda and an agitated Warren Peters. "Mom, this has gone too far," Jeffrey declared. "You are tearing this family apart over money." "This has never been about money," I replied calmly. "This is about you taking away my independence, my home, and my dignity." "Everything I did was to protect you," he insisted. "You sold my home without my consent. You put me in a nursing home I do not need. You tried to take my lottery winnings. How exactly were you protecting me?" "You are not thinking clearly," Amanda interjected. "Your confusion is exactly why Jeffrey needed to step in." Dorothy, who had insisted on being present, spoke up sharply. "Mrs. Patterson has been evaluated by 2 independent doctors who found no confusion whatsoever. The only confusion seems to be your confusion of her money with your money." Jeffrey turned on her furiously. "This is none of your business." "Actually, it became my business when you decided to imprison an innocent woman for her money," Dorothy replied evenly. "I watched my own mother suffer elder abuse before I understood what was happening. I will not stand by silently this time." The second hearing was dramatically different from the first. The courtroom was packed with supporters. Martha and her teacher friends, residents from Pinecrest who were able to attend, and even some of Frank's former colleagues who had learned about the situation. Sandra and Gerald presented our case methodically, laying out the evidence of Jeffrey's financial exploitation, the fraudulent medical evaluation, and his recorded plan to maintain control of my assets regardless of my actual condition. Dr. Summers testified again, reaffirming her finding that I was fully competent to manage my own affairs. She was joined by Dr. Almay, Victor Reynolds, a nationally recognized geriatric psychiatrist who had reviewed my case and concurred with her assessment. The most dramatic moment came when Sandra called Dr. Harold Manning to testify. Confronted with evidence of the undisclosed payment from Jeffrey and similarities between my evaluation and others he had provided for Robert Dawson's clients, Dr. Manning invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Jeffrey took the stand late in the day, his confident facade crumbling under Gerald's skilled cross-examination. "Mr. Patterson, can you explain why you paid Dr. Manning $7,000 in cash prior to your mother's evaluation?" Gerald asked. "That was a personal loan," Jeffrey stammered. It had nothing to do with my mother's case. A loan? Gerald repeated skeptically. Did you create a loan document? Was there an agreed-upon repayment schedule? It was informal, between friends. When did you and Dr. Manning become friends? We have known each other for years. Gerald consulted his notes. That is interesting, because Dr. Manning stated in his deposition that he met you for the first time the day before your mother's evaluation, when you were referred to him by Attorney Dawson. Jeffrey's testimony deteriorated further as Gerald methodically dismantled each of his claims. By the time he stepped down, his credibility was in tatters. The final witness was Taylor, whose tearful testimony about her father's scheme to institutionalize me permanently clearly moved Judge Ramirez. I love my dad, Taylor concluded, but what he is doing to my grandmother is wrong. She deserves to live her life with dignity and freedom. Judge Ramirez's ruling was decisive. Based on the overwhelming evidence presented, I am immediately terminating the guardianship of Jeffrey Patterson over Lena Patterson. The power of attorney obtained under false pretenses is hereby revoked. A restraining order barring Jeffrey Patterson from contact with Mrs. Patterson is granted for a period of 1 year. She continued, addressing me directly. Mrs. Patterson, this court apologizes for the injustice you have endured. Your case highlights serious failures in the systems designed to protect our elderly citizens from exploitation. As we left the courthouse, surrounded by friends and supporters, I felt an overwhelming sense of vindication. The battle had been painful and exhausting, but necessary. And now, at 68 years old, I was finally free to begin the next chapter of my life, on my own terms and with my dignity intact. The weeks following the court decision were a whirlwind of activity and adjustment. With my legal rights restored and full access to my lottery winnings, my first priority was securing new housing. I had no desire to remain at Pinecrest now that I had a choice. With Sandra's help, I purchased a lovely single-story ranch-style home in a quiet neighborhood, not far from where my previous house had stood. The property featured wide hallways, accessible bathrooms, and other age-friendly features that would allow me to age in place safely. The spacious backyard, perfect for gardening, reminded me of the home Frank and I had shared, while offering a fresh start untainted by Jeffrey's betrayal. Rather than live alone, I hired Tara, who had left her position at Pinecrest after testifying on my behalf, as my part-time health aide and companion. Her nursing skills provided peace of mind, while her friendship offered the social connection I valued. Martha moved into the guest house on the property, fulfilling our long-standing joke about becoming roommates once we were old and widowed. Only took us 30 years and a lottery win to make it happen, Martha teased as we shared coffee on the patio the morning after moving in. My newfound wealth allowed me to support causes close to my heart. I established the Dignity in Aging Foundation, dedicated to preventing elder abuse and promoting reforms in guardianship laws. The foundation provided grants for legal aid to seniors fighting exploitation and funded advocacy programs, teaching older adults how to protect themselves from financial predators, even within their own families. Dorothy, who had been such a crucial ally during my ordeal, became the foundation's first board chair after leaving Pinecrest. Her legal expertise and personal passion for the cause made her the perfect leader for this new venture. We are going to help thousands of seniors maintain their independence, she declared at our first board meeting. What happened to you, Lena, happens every day to elderly people without your resources or support system. Healing my relationship with my grandchildren became another priority. Taylor and Lucas had been caught in an impossible position, torn between loyalty to their parents and their love for me. I made sure they understood that my door was always open to them, without pressure or expectations. Taylor was the first to visit my new home, arriving nervous but determined to maintain our relationship. I am so sorry for everything that happened, she said as we sat in the sunroom. I should have spoken up sooner. You did exactly the right thing at exactly the right time, I assured her. Your courage made all the difference. Dad and Mom are furious with me, she admitted. They say I betrayed the family. You honored the true meaning of family by standing up for what was right, I told her. That takes more courage than going along with something you know is wrong. To help secure her future independent of her parents' financial control, I established education trusts for both Taylor and Lucas, ensuring they could pursue college without dependence on Jeffrey and Amanda. The question of pressing charges against Jeffrey was the most difficult decision I faced. Sandra and the district attorney believed we had a strong case for financial exploitation and fraud, with the potential for serious consequences including jail time. After much soul-searching, I decided to move forward with the charges. It was not about revenge, but accountability and protecting others. Your case can set a precedent, Sandra explained. It could help prosecutors pursue similar cases and serve as a warning to others who might exploit vulnerable seniors. Jeffrey and Amanda faced not only criminal charges but social consequences as well. Their standing in the community collapsed as details of their scheme became public. Jeffrey lost his position at the investment firm where he had worked for 15 years. Former friends distanced themselves. Their country club membership was quietly revoked. Despite everything, I found no satisfaction in their downfall. My son's betrayal remained a wound that would never fully heal. I mourned the relationship we had once had and the person I had believed him to be. Warren Peters also faced repercussions. A state investigation into Pinecrest, triggered by our case, revealed numerous violations in resident care and financial practices. He was eventually removed as administrator, and the facility placed under new management with increased oversight. Throughout this period of transition and healing, I often reflected on Frank's wisdom and what he would have made of these extraordinary events. On difficult days, I could almost hear him saying, "Every challenge is just an opportunity wearing a disguise, Lena." Sometimes the disguise is pretty convincing, though. 6 months after moving into my new home, I hosted a special dinner. Around my table sat those who had stood by me through the darkest times. Martha, Dorothy, Sandra, Tara, Taylor, and several other friends who had never wavered in their support. "I want to thank each of you," I said as we enjoyed dessert in the dining room that had become the heart of my new home. When I was locked away, when my voice was dismissed, when my own son tried to erase my personhood, you still saw me, you still heard me, you still fought for me. Martha raised her glass. To Lena, who taught us all that courage has no age limit. As the evening wound down, Taylor helped me clear the dishes, working quietly beside me in a comfortable rhythm. "Grandma," she said suddenly, "are you happy now, after everything that happened?" I considered her question carefully. "Happiness is not quite the right word," I replied. "I have peace. I have purpose. I have genuine connections with people who value me for who I am, not what I can give them. Those things are more important than happiness, which comes and goes with circumstances." She nodded thoughtfully. "I want to be like you when I grow up." "Be yourself," I told her, squeezing her hand. "That is more than enough." Later that night, alone in my new bedroom, I thought about the extraordinary journey from imprisonment to freedom, from powerlessness to purpose. The lottery win that Jeffrey had coveted had indeed changed my life, but not in the way any of us could have predicted. It had become the catalyst for reclaiming my voice and my dignity. The real prize had not been the $74 million, but the wisdom that came from fighting for my own worth. No one, regardless of age or circumstance, should ever surrender their basic right to self-determination. Sometimes the most important freedom is simply the freedom to be yourself, to make your own choices, and to live with dignity on your own terms. And that, I realized as I drifted off to sleep in my own home, in my own bed, making my own choices, was the true jackpot. What would you do if someone tried to take away your freedom or dignity? I hope my story inspires you to stand up for yourself, or for someone you love who might be vulnerable to exploitation. Remember that age is never a reason to surrender your rights or your voice. If you found value in my story, please comment below with your thoughts or experiences. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with them. Thank you for listening, and may you always have the courage to fight for what matters most.